Hi there, I'm Stina with Harbor Wild Watch, here to give you the highlights about an experimental Olympia oyster restoration that a team of us did in the Salish Sea. Now for starters, the Salish Sea is an incredible estuary that includes the Puget Sound, which is where our project took place. We chose a site called Penrose Point State Park due to its popularity as a shellfish harvesting area and its proximity to a nearby lake which discharges into the cove. Our hope for this project was to see how harmful algal blooms from Bay Lake might impact the successful restoration of Olympia oysters, which, spoiler alert, neither of those intended outcomes occurred. So I'd like to share some lessons learned. First, kind of looking at how harmful algal blooms impact marine shellfish is a really interesting question, especially when we expect that these events will expand in scale and intensity with global climate change. The presence of these toxins from freshwater harmful algal blooms have been documented in the Puget Sound, so learning more about how the conditions that could lead to advisories of closures to protect human health is definitely information worth gaining. So I guess during our study period, we just didn't have that harmful algal bloom to study, but look forward to learning more about that in the future. So secondly, we know that restoring Olympia oyster beds is a priority in the Salish Sea. And while our project turned out to be most successful at feeding the local fauna tasty oyster treats, we did learn some important lessons. We would recommend that a future oyster restoration at this site should definitely take into account the lack of Olympia oyster recruitment, as there's not sufficient larvae settling at this site. And furthermore, if you are taking the restoration route of build it and they will come, choosing a location where the shell hash that you add won't sink or get transported away is ideal. We found that the added shell material was most stable in locations on the beach that were rockier and had more vertical relief. And then most importantly, those restoration efforts should consider adding Olympia oysters in a way that reduces predation. Finally, we look forward to continued monitoring of this site for those potential ecological community changes, as well as tracking and monitoring future impacts of harmful algal blooms from freshwater in this marine system. So with that, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And as always, learn, have fun.